Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, I want to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs signing defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson to a 4-year deal worth $3.5 million per season, and why I think this deal is a lot better than what people are giving it credit for. I'm also not going to pretend like it's perfect, right? What I mean when I say better than what most people are giving it credit for is I feel like a lot of people are acting like the Maple Leafs signed one of the worst defensemen in the NHL to a contract that was for too much money and for too many years. And you know what? Right off the bat, I'll give it to you. He's 32, turning 33. A 4-year deal is not the greatest for this player. But in a world where $1.2 billion worth of contracts were handed out yesterday, there was a lot of bad money flying all over the place for way too many years, right? And if you wanted to make your team better, you're going to have to bite the bullet a little bit, right? That's why you got to draft well. Let's snuff this out right now, because a couple of seasons ago, Oliver Ekman-Larsson was bought out by the Vancouver Canucks, and before they did that, he had the reputation of being one of the most overpaid, worst defensemen in the entire NHL. And to get him from that to what we'll see in about a minute or so, all the Florida Panthers did was stop using him as their number one defenseman. It's not 2015 anymore. The guy is not receiving Norris votes like he did perennially with the Arizona Coyotes. All the Florida Panthers did was take this guy and stop using him as their number one defenseman and use him more appropriately to what he is at this point in his career, which is a low-end number 4 defenseman or a higher-end number 5 guy. Because these are the results that you get when you use Oliver Ekman-Larsson as your number 1 defenseman, which is what the Vancouver Canucks were doing the season before they bought him out. But when you just dial his minutes back just a little bit and use him as a number 4 or a number 5 guy, pretty much all of the numbers do a complete 180, and this is a very useful player. We mentioned this about a minute ago or so, but I wanted to actually show you, and then I wanted to make a bit of a statement. Because Oliver Ekman-Larsson played the 4th highest percentage of his ice time up against the other team's best players among the Florida Blue Liners this past season. If you sort it by total time on ice up against the other team's best players, he's still 4th, but Ekblad played significantly less games, so if Ekblad was healthier, OEL would be 5th on this list. So they used him as a number 4, number 5 defenseman, playing special teams as well as ice time was a little bit higher than the 3rd pair defenseman. And in that role, it's not like they asked him to play lock it down defense or anything. They played him in a role, and they gave him minutes that were more catered towards what he's good at. They gave him some more offensive zone starts, but they didn't shelter him. This isn't a sheltered role. He's just a number 4, number 5 defenseman on a Stanley Cup winning team. And all that took was for the Panthers to stop using him as a number 1 defenseman like the Canucks were. And I understand the Panthers were paying him $2.25 million compared to whatever the Canucks were paying him, something outrageous. That the Coyotes gave him that deal, and then the Canucks traded for it. And I understand there was a lot of pieces in that deal. The Canucks shed a lot of money as well, but to acquire that player was ridiculous. But then to play him as your number 1 defenseman was even more ridiculous. The Panthers didn't do anything revolutionary here. All they did was stop using him as a number 1 defenseman, and all of a sudden all the numbers did a complete 180. I think the results that he produced with the Canucks the last few years he was there says more about that management group, and they fired all of those people, really just not knowing what they were doing. They still produced well offensively while being a good team defensively with Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the ice, and their power play was actually slightly better with him compared to without him. And this is another thing that I learned about this player while doing research for this video. He played on Florida's penalty kill last season and was actually pretty good at it. Now, it's not like he was out there all the time or anything like that, but still, he played over 100 minutes on their penalty kill, and the results were mostly positive. if we're looking at the Florida Panthers penalty kill with him compared to without him, maybe he was out there on their second unit or playing up against other teams' second units, but still, for how bad the Maple Leafs penalty kill was last season, I'll take him as an option. When he was playing with the Arizona Coyotes and receiving votes for the Norris Trophy, he was more known as an offensive defenseman than anything else. But this past year with the Florida Panthers, with the respectable results defensively, playing on the penalty kill, and being a decent offensive contributor, I would call him more of a two-way guy than anything else. The Maple Leafs were second in the NHL in hits last season, and his 105 hits would rank third on the Maple Leafs. So at 6'2" and 200 pounds, this isn't a guy who's just all offense and all flash. He could lay the body. He could block his shot. Sounds like a pretty good player. Like we pointed out at the beginning of the video, I don't like that this contract is 4 years in length. He's 32, turning 33. The $3.5 million cap hit is not super egregious, but it's enough money that when he does start to decline, you're going to notice it, and you're going to feel that, and you're going to wish that it wasn't 4 years. But at the same time, like we also pointed out, there were $1.2 billion worth of contracts handed out on July 1st. The reality is that unless there was a player out there that so badly wanted to play for your team, you were more than likely going to have to overpay for free agents. And if you didn't want to overpay based on the AAV, then you were going to have to tack on an extra year or two to the contract in order to spread that money out and make it a bit more manageable. But also, the cap is going to be increasing significantly over the next 2, 3, 4 years, hopefully. So I like the player. He played well last season, like we pointed out. The poor results in Vancouver probably had more to do with how dumb that management group was, and they fired all of them. I think he's going to be just fine for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's going to be a versatile player. Like we said, he could play on the penalty kill, he could play on your power play. He wasn't playing super sheltered minutes for the Panthers last season. This isn't a guy that you got to worry about, really. You're going to play him 18 minutes a night, and he's just going to be decent. I haven't had an opportunity to make a video or talk about Jani Hakanpää yet, but just very quickly here, I like this player a lot more than what the average analytics card will lead you to believe. And I'm not griping on analytics or anything like that. I use a lot of them in my videos. But when I do use them, I try to contextualize them as much as I possibly can. And I'm not saying that those cards don't contextualize the numbers. It's hard to read all the data unless you've read like the thesis paper behind it all. Jani Hakanpää is a much better player than what most people will lead you to believe. When you play pretty much exclusively in the defensive zone in tougher minutes, of course the numbers aren't going to look kind. Of course they're not going to look kind. And that's Jani Hakanpää. Very good player. Very happy to have him. As it stands right now, the Maple Leafs have 8 defensemen on their roster. They have 4 left-handed shooting defensemen and 4 right-handed shooting defensemen. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I don't think they've ever had that going into a regular season or at any point in an off season over the last number of years. I don't know. You feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this defense is a lot better than what people will give it credit for, at least before the season starts. I think once they hit the ice, obviously, we'll see the fruits of it. So Morgan Rielly, Chris Tanev, Jake McCabe. Maybe Jake McCabe plays on the right side, and you go with a familiar pairing here. Simone Benoit, Jake McCabe. We know that works. We know that works in a defensive role up against the other team's best players. Maybe it's Jake McCabe on the right side with Oliver Ekman-Larsson sometimes. Maybe it's Jake McCabe with Jani Hakanpää. I could see that working because Jake McCabe does have a tendency, while he is a good defensive defenseman, he has a tendency to pinch a lot. and try to play up in the rush. He's a very aggressive player at both ends of the ice. And Yanni Hakapa can be a little bit of a sturdy, steady anchor for this player. Timothy Liljegren, if he's able to take a step next season, they don't need him to play top 4 minutes, but it would be nice. It would be nice because they're paying him $3 million. Like I pointed out in the video that I did talking about him yesterday, it's very difficult to trade a player who has a pending arbitration case. Maybe they do move on from him still. I don't know. I like the player. I hope he takes a step this year. I hope it works out because, they drafted him. They've developed him. They've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort. We've spent several years caring about this player. I want him to be good. I want him to work out. Connor Timmins is Connor Timmins, but the Leafs have other holes on their roster, and I think they'll probably move on at some point. And you got 7 defensemen here. Simone Benoit does not deserve to be a healthy scratch. But also, the Maple Leafs haven't been in a position to just have depth. They've often been forced to just play guys who could probably use a rest. And I like the idea of, every 4 or 5 games, give so-and-so the night off. He blocked a shot last night in an awkward spot. There's no need to push it. It's November, right? I think this decor is going to be much better than what a lot of people will give it credit for in the summer. Ultimately, I'm just really happy that Morgan Rielly finally has a good defensive partner. If you scroll through the list of guys who have played significant minutes next to Morgan Rielly throughout his career, it's depressing. Chris Tanev legitimately is probably the best right-handed shooting defenseman that the Maple Leafs have had. I don't know. Brian McCabe? Brian McCabe? Is that how far we gotta go back? No idea how long this video is at this point, but I enjoy chatting with you guys sometimes, and I would like to do that more. For the longest time, I tried to make these videos like hyper-focused, and, if I could say something in 10 seconds as opposed to saying it in 20, go back and redo that clip, but sometimes you just gotta free ball it a little bit. Don't worry about it. Doesn't have to be super edited or anything like that. And I would really like to say thank you to everybody in the comments section being like, he's back, he's posting videos, and just being welcoming me back here on this platform. It's meant a lot. I do really appreciate it. I wish maybe I will take some time, maybe like at work, when I'm at work and I don't have anything better to do, just kind of sit there on my phone, reply to you guys, talk to you guys for a little bit and say thank you. On my own time, admittedly, I probably do not have time, but if it's on company time, that's different. So thank you very much for watching. That's gonna be it for this one. Make sure to like the video if you did like it, and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. And I'll see you again in the next one.